So I think we are ready to start. So welcome everybody. We are here to the eighth episode of the Damanhur Talks, and as I said before, we're gonna talk about time, timelines, cycles of the times, and we're gonna see how can we use time in our daily life for our spiritual evolution. First of all, and I will start with you, Gnomo, can you help us to understand what is time for the Damanhur philosophy? So, what Damanhur thinks about this strange creatures that is time?
Yes. I think that maybe the best way to describe time for the Damanhurian philosophy is to talk about an ocean, a huge ocean where every moment, every instant of present is a drop of it. It's something very different from the culture and the education we received. And also because of our five senses, we are convinced to be inside a sort of river from past to future with one direction. Of course, in terms of matter, in terms of physical world, it is correct, also for the physics. But we are not also, we are not only made by flesh, but made by matter. We are also a huge amount of thought, ideas, emotions, consciousness. Okay, so a very big part of us, maybe the bigger part of us, so not the physical part of us, is inside a huge ocean of time where we completely go beyond the idea of past, present, and future to a completely different idea where we are always living a present. We are always completing, saturating, um, consuming something that we can only describe as the present. Luckily, today also the modern physics, I'm talking about especially about the relativity, the Albert Einstein relativity, understood that, of course, past and future are only ideas in our mind, but they are not real. So I think can be sort of interesting starting in order to to talk about that topic.
Okay, thank you, Gnomo, and I will switch us again with this frame. Okay, do you want to add something, Napea, about this topic, about time and your experience?
Well, time I definitely feel is, like Nyomo said, really an ocean that we are really kind of in the ebb and the flow constantly. And,
Mhm.
really important part is about being in the present moment. So the past is there, the future is there, but really, when we think about time and being, it's here and now in this very present moment.
Let's go deep in this topic, both of you. So we often used to say, let's say, in this different spirituality and philosophy, that it's important to live in the present, in the now. So the past and the future is actually something to avoid, but is how can we interpret this, let's say, concept from the perspective that time is an ocean, is a kingdom, and something like that? Do we really live in a present, or is always a present actually? So how can we? What can we say about that?
I think that mm, we have to put this topic into the daily life to understand
Yeah.
what really means, because uh, we are always we are facing life normally all over the world um, with this idea of to face the present, to in some way to enter into a battle every day where we have to fight with something, with time, running, of course, um, thinking about what happened in the past, understanding and planning how to, you know, to handle what is going on, what is what is what is arriving from the future. But this stress, this constant tension is it's like something very bad for us, because it's always moving the attention, the awareness to something that is not here and now. So the first act we have to do, it's something very little, very simple, but very important, is to use our breathing. So paying attention on this aspect to inhale and exhale, that it's simple. We don't have to do pranayama or yoga or something very complicated for the people. But we first of all we have to remember that we have to breathe. The breathing, this movement of to extend and contract the body and our consciousness, this natural movement, is the first step in order to come back to the present. Because when we are thinking about the breath, breathing, we come back to the body. The body is always on the present. The body is on the present.
Perfect.
Our mind can float to the past, to the future, to the ideas. The soul is everywhere. So the only part of us that it's actually on the present is the body. That's why we believe that there is a strong connection between the present and the breathing,
And
breath.
so it
To
came
be
the
very
question.
practical.
Yeah. I will ask a question, but before I want to also ask to Napea. So we share it with talking about our daily life. So Gnomo pointed out a very important concept. So be in touch with our body and with our breath can let us stay in the present. From your experience, Napea, in your daily life, how do you stay present? How do you remind to yourself to stay present? Is there any exercise or simple things that you do in order to remind to yourself to stay present?
Well, for me, I found certainly there's a couple of things, but one that stands out really a lot is the most how do you say, energy that I found about being present is when I'm in the nature. So the most that I can possibly be present is when I'm really near to a tree, a big tree. The bigger, the better. And I really feel like I can connect, because when you think about this tree who has these roots right down in the ground, and have been there for sometimes hundreds of years, even trees thousands of years. It's really it's an impression to see and feel how they are just so still and present, but also so living at the same time. So often, even if I do not actually get to, if I'm having a moment where I'm wanting to be in the future or I'm wanting to be in the past, I will try to sit with a tree. If I cannot sit with a tree physically, I will try to take my creative mind and my imagery there to be sitting with a tree. So this helps me to focus and to slow my breath down, because our breath, it's, as Nyomo said, happening very naturally. We don't really need to think about it. And when we do think about it, we can bring a lot of awareness into the body and the here and now. But just like a tree, they're slow. The movements are slow. Their growth is slow. And so when I can connect to that, when I'm in the moments really of as we said, a busy moment or too much, and I need to really center and focus on the here and now, I do my best to visualize and connect with a tree.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you,
I think
Napea.
that
Yeah,
Napea
go on.
touched a very important point, because slowing down, we can really touch the time. Time, it's something we can't completely understand if we do not slow down. We think that running, we can do more. Actually, we have to slow down to do more.
That's a very interesting point, and I think it's
It's
a
not
bit
easy. It's not easy at all
not easy.
today.
Even because we are in a society that pull us, let's say, the main culture is saying to us that you have to go faster than the others and you have to run in order to achieve your results, in order to so on, to be a successful person. So actually, what you both are saying is that if we slow down, we are much more in touch with our body, with time, and actually time is something that we can perceive as much as we go maybe slower. I mean, more events can be fit if we are in a, let's say, going much slower than what we are used to. But there is a question that I think is quite connected with what we are saying. I put it now. Can you all see it? So I was saying it's confusing for me. Some say the past and the future happen now. How do I understand that there is no future and past? I would love to understand it. Being present, I do understand. But so, can you please both go a bit deeper in this topic so that we can give more
Yes,
hints about it?
I think we can come back to the aspect of what is time today for the physics. So the huge jump that thanks to Albert Einstein we did in order to understand what is time is that time is not divided from space. So we can't today we can't actually say time and space. It's not correct. We always have to say space time. So space and time are two different angles, two different point of view of the same object. So it's not it's so from this point of view, it's completely correct to talk about um, past and future as different places. I can be here in my town in Damanhur, but in the same time in another place in California or in Australia or somewhere else, someone else is present in another space. This space is also another time. This is something people um, normally do not understand because the culture, the education we received is always repeating there is a past, present, and future. But someone that is now, in this moment, uh, into another place on the planet is not only into another place, is not in the same present I am, is also in another time. This time is very big, it's huge. So when we talk about past and future, we are talking about also something that is so far from us, also in terms of space, not only time. But it's not easy because it's something that the human being is still trying to understand. It's not yet completely part of our culture, but is part of our science for more than 100 years.
And
Sorry,
what
a little
about,
bit
yeah,
technical, a little bit technical.
don't worry, Nema. What about when we talk about past lives, for example? So when or contemporary life, are we really talking about past lives, or it's we should say, starting from what you point out now, that are more contemporary lives? So are we living in many point of this time kingdom? Yes or no?
Yes, um, depends of how many dimensions we want to add. So if we are still thinking about our life because of the education, sorry, I have to repeat it, the culture we received as a past, present, and future, I say my past lives, uh, they um, they happened into a past. Okay, this is correct only because of my point of view that it's very flat. If I think about myself as a time creature that is present in this um, ocean with many point of consciousness, they are all present. It's like to say, I can um, observe the street where I live. Okay, I can exit my house and I look at the street and I say, okay, if the street is my life, I only say I have only two directions from, I don't know, left and right. But if I take an helicopter and I go on top of the city, and I start to see the entire city, I can see many directions. Okay? When we talk about the soul, so the complete structure of our soul with all our lives and past lives, we are talking about the helicopter that is looking at the entire city. When I'm very focused because of my ego in one life, I'm the person on the street that is only looking at left and right direction of the street.
Mhm.
So it depends of the amount of consciousness and vision I have. That's why it's so important to extend our vision and our consciousness with personal work, spiritual research, and so on.
Thank you, Gnomo. Do you want to add something, Napea, for example, about your experience with the past lives in Damanhur and so on? Like, did that open up your perception, like Gnomo was saying, about being a time creature, let's say?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that it definitely helped me to see different parts of myself, of who I am now in the present moment, because maybe these past lives happened in the future or in the current moment, as Nyomo said, if a bigger view. But in what I noticed is that those points which came to be known were also helpful to me in now, in the present moment. So certain things that I found that there's a piece of me in my present life which I love to do calligraphy. I love these types of ink and feather pens and old paper. I love these things so much. After doing a past life research course, I realized that I worked with these things in the past in another time. Was it another time? Was it recent? Was it now? That's a great question. Like Nyomo said, it depends on the viewpoint that you're having. But I definitely realize certain points that are able to also assist me in this present moment, in the here and now, that explain to me also who helped me to understand who I am, and what my capacities are, what my desires are, and why I love the things that I do.
Sure. And
Yeah.
I want to, starting from what you said, I want to start to answer with you, and then Gnomo can go on to this question that Marco pointed out. The conception of but the conception of time is relative to individual perception. Can you please just easily introduce the quasi-reale concept that I don't know how to translate in English of Damanhur,
Quasi-real.
and then if Gnomo you can go on, and both of you can just open up the quasi-reale concept.
Yeah, Nyomo vai tu. Go right ahead.
Yes, of course, time is there is a huge component of relativity on the perception of time. Time also today is one of the main topic researched by the neuroscience also, and of course, when we talk about time, we are always talking about a relationship perception. So to have time, we need to have someone that is observing some other one. Okay, so when we exit from this mechanism of observer and observed, we are outside time, and outside time everything is different. Maybe we can talk about a new physics that can work outside time. Also today the research in quantum mechanics is showing to the researchers that it's also possible to use all the equations of quantum mechanics without time, and they work very well the same, because when we go to the quantum level, we don't need time. Time is important when we are inside the perception, when we are inside the senses. That's why for us it's so important and is strictly important to enter in relationship with time always, constantly during our life, because we are the human being is still until now based on the external senses, on the perception of the reality. This is also a problem because this huge attention of what is going on outside of us. So always putting our attention on the world instead to also to put the attention on us, the inner world we have. We are always jumping into this mechanism of past, present, and future, of time in terms of duration. It's one point of view. It's not the only one. Human being can also expand, create new way of consciousness, but we have to change our culture every day. Not something we have to do somewhere in some moment in our life. It's not something special we have to do. It's something we have to do every day.
And now, not in the past, not in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go deep in on this question. So, how can we then? We've said already many things, but let's ask this question. So, how can we use time for our personal slash spiritual growth? So, how can we use it, as you said, in our daily life? Both of you, what are a couple of things or that you do in order to use time to manipulate it, to use it in order to maybe let's say do all your tasks or manage the events of the day to make them fit or to live them with harmony, or maybe you have a purpose that next week these specific things you will like that happen in that specific way. You work with synchronicity. How do you deal with that? So really talking about your experience and your exercise that you are practicing to better use time in your daily life. Who wants to? Yeah, I mean, Gnomo or Napea, who just prefer?
I will start, and Napea also will add a lot of interesting thing about that. We, as Damanhurian, we chosen to have a global approach to the topic of time. For example, dividing the year in phases. For example, the solstices, the equinoxes, or the ritual of the death. So to plan our year, project our year also in advance, to project the time. For example, now we are close to the end of the year of the sun, where for many different traditions, this is a very important moment because it's a moment where we can plan, we can prepare the new year. We say in Damanhur the Pagomeni days, using a Greek word that means add the days. I think that Napea can also add, of course, other aspect of it.
Yeah, this topic is very interesting because the Apagamoni days, as Nyomo said, it's a very ancient Greek mythology, and we believe that actually it's like a gift of time. So there are these extra days which come after the solstice and in the new year, because the original calendar, from what we understand, was not quite so much as we know it today. And these days are added so that we actually have a possibility to go ahead and plant seeds to perhaps for projects that maybe we would like to have success in the future. So it's a time where you can really go deeper and look deeper into what is it that you really want to create. And this is a time where you have really importance on what you want to see coming in the next 6 months, in the next year. What is it that you would like to create and see for yourself? So again, time, we are looking in the future, but we are not hyper focused on the future, but we are thinking, okay, what can we do now that will sprout in the spring, right? What can we sow in the ground now? Which seeds can we sow, which will then in the spring have some sun and some water and will evolve and sprout from there. So this is a very interesting um, point of view for us to really look at our life, look at our society, look at the culture, look at also your family, whatever it can be, but something for you to really take time and really plant those seeds that you want to see grow and germinate.
Yeah, uh, it's a very thin division between the idea of to think about the future, or as Napea described very well, to be focused on my desire now. We have to pay attention. There is a very big distinction between needs and desires. We have needs, of course, as humans, and we have to cover our needs because it is important. But we also have dreams, and we have to cultivate the dreams. And the dreams, they come from now, they come from my present. I have the dream. Okay, a dream is also a plan, is also a project in many languages. To have a dream is also to have a plan, to have a project. This project is like to put the seed on the ground and also to forget. Don't do not spend a lot of tension in order to achieve this goal, but I have to plant it in the present with the desire. This is the moment of the year, as Napea described. We say the epagomeny days as the moment where we can plant, where we can generate ideas. So it's an active attitude to flow in time. It's not something passive, waiting for the future, but to generate the future, explaining, describing, searching for our dreams. Sometimes we have to do a sort of training because in the modern world, people they stopped to dream. We have to start again to dream. I think you can test it with your friends. You can ask, what are your dreams? And sometimes the people they will be a little bit uh, in trouble because they have no dreams. Maybe they have 1, 2, 3 dreams, but we have to list 100 dreams. We have to force ourselves to produce dreams because we are made to create dreams as humans.
And doing this exercise that you just say, Gnomo, so that can be, let's say, something that we share. So try to um, clarify what are your dreams in order to use the specific moments of the year to plant these dreams. How these have deal with the synchronicity? That is a term that Damanhur use a lot in his, let's say, philosophy and culture and so on. How can we relate to synchronicity, all that we said right now?
It is the way to use the synchronicity, because synchronicity for us means to act. To activate the synchronicity, we have to act. It's an active tension that can create synchronicity. See, what is synchronicity in the Damanhurian philosophy? Synchronicity is to connect events. And as humans, we have only one way to connect events, to act. Acting, we connect. We human being it's a bridge. We are a bridge. We connect different worlds. We connect different dimensions, and the only way we have to connect is to act. So the idea of to use the synchronicity is very well explained when we are planning and we are deciding what to do today in order to satisfy a little bit one of our dreams every day. Maybe using a journal, writing down our dreams, looking at the dreams I wrote down last week and changing something, adding something, editing my plan because the plan is evolving with me. It's something we have to take care. We take care about our body, we take care about our business, but we have also to take care about our dreams. As Napea described talking about the epagomeny. The epagomeny days is a way to take care about our dreams every year.
Yeah. Thank you, Nyama. Do you want Napea also to share maybe how, like, talking about plan, when you need to plan your time as a Damanhurian, talking like about maybe experience that you have with planning your time and seeing how synchronicity or let's say your attention can work with it. Is there an experience or something that you see that is working that we can share with people that are listening to us?
Well, I'm quite a practical person, so if you really want to talk about time, and I am using a calendar to to really, if it comes to the
Easy peasy.
practical times of life, because
It's
we have
powerful.
many things to do in the day, and I also don't want to miss something. I don't want to forget something. I don't want to, many things have importance at the same level. So just because often when I'm focusing on one thing, I don't want to miss the other things. So I do use a calendar, but also I do notice sometimes when I'm really present, I feel that it's possible also to slow down time or speed up time a little bit. And I don't know really how to explain this in a scientific way, but I notice that sometimes it is possible where I feel that time is passing very slowly, and I really have a lot of time to do everything that I wanted, everything that I had planned, everything that I needed to get done. And other times it seems that time is going faster. So I'm what I do in my daily life is that I'm paying attention. So I'm paying attention to the time, but not in a way which is making me to stress or to hurry. It's more about, okay, how does it feel right now? How is it shaping the movements and my what's happening next? So I try not to give it so much how do you say, so much density that I'm really focused on only the time, but I'm more like observing it, like what Nyomo was talking about earlier about being an observer of the time. And sometimes I try to sway it a little bit using my creative thought process.
Definitely. And about that, so time sometimes a day sometimes it seems like going so fast, sometimes so slow, so the time is not running out anymore. And today in Instagram, a person asked us about the repeating cycles of times of specific events. Like it happened, I think, to each one of us that sometimes it seems like, oh, but this situation I already face it. So let's say in the micro in our daily life, oh yeah, these things happen 1 year ago. The same is the same pattern. Like if there is a pattern with some events in our life, then of course we can see these repeating cycles of the time also in the histories of humankind. So in bigger, much bigger cycles. Can you just please comment this specific topic? So the repeating cycles of times from the macro, like huge history of humankind, to the micro. If it's also happening to you, how do you deal with that? And what does that mean to you when you see that things are re-happening in the same time? Maybe there is a challenge that needs to be overcome, something different that has to be done. How can we interpret these repeating cycles of time? Gnomo, Napea, and free. And people that have questions about that, just in the chat you can write.
Of course, the cycles of time are the main structure of time. Think about the day. We are all repeating this movement to go to sleep, wake up in the morning, leaving the day, going to sleep, and so on. Time is a constant repetition, but because everything changes every day, this is not a closed cycle, so it's not a ring, it's a spiral. And drawing a spiral, you can see that you can touch the same point many times, but with a different distance, in a different, with a different amount, with a different amount of energy. But we touch the same point many times during lives. That's why it's important to have a journal, to write down your life, to describe your story, because in this way, looking at your story, sometimes reading what you wrote 1 year ago, 6 months ago, 1 month ago, you can understand if you have waves, cycles, and how to guide or to change that cycles. So we have to be a little bit more pragmatic. This is a very practical aspect, something you can do every day. Write down what happened to you, because the memory is always changing. We forget. But if we look at the story, we can understand that we have cycles, many cycles. It's a spiral. It's not a ring. It's a spiral because everything is always different, a little bit different. But we have main cycles because we have a program during the life. And this program cannot be done in one day. We need to do many attempts, many trials. Every day is the rehearsal in order to repeat again and again and again in order to complete a painting. The painting is my life. This painting is still something we have to repeat with the same colors. We always have 6 colors. Okay, so but with these very few colors, we can do something beautiful, a painting, if we repeat it in the right way. We have to understand that the life is always the repetition of one day, or if we want to continue with the example, it's the repetition of one present that we repeat again and again and again, a lot of times.
Thank you, Gnomo. Napea, you want to add something from your experience of seeing that things repeat sometimes, and how do you overcome this process, or you interpret this process?
Yeah, well, of course, it depends on what it is that we're seeing as the recurrence. If it can be a challenge that you face, that's one thing. I look at it also more like the natural rhythms of the planet. So I know in the universe there are natural rhythms. And when we talk about the solstice or the equinox, the full moon, the new moon, these are the natural rhythms of the planet that are repeating themselves. And of course, they are slightly different, a little bit different each time, even when it comes to the timing of the sunrise or the sunset, or the point when the sun is at the highest during the day. So these natural rhythms of the planet are also cycles that if we are present, I feel that we can also embrace them to connect also with ourselves. Because, for example, in the spring, it's a renewal, it's a reawakening in a way. In the winter, in the autumn, when we're going into more of a colder time, a darker time in the winter months, there are things that we can also do to prepare ourselves to be ready for that, and also to nourish that parts of ourselves which are needing to slow down a little, hibernate a little, maybe not be out so much. These natural rhythms of the planet, I feel that if we can really pay attention to them, we can also pay attention to the rhythms of our own self, which we can have many benefits from doing. So when I think about the full moon or the new moon or the equinoxes, when the light and dark are equal, these are moments when also it's time to go inside ourselves, to look at and evaluate and assess what's going on within us. So I find that even those cycles, which are, as Nyomo said, also kind of spiraling, these are things which are happening for as long as we know. And it's important also to take that into consideration for your own self, our physical body, and our mental well-being, of course, spiritual and all three.
Yeah, the Napea description is beautiful because can help us to understand that cycles are made by different environments. Um, the spring, the summer, there are different also environment related with time. So events more fast, event more that are slowing down, events that are more in equilibrium, events that are more extreme, like in the 2 solstices, the extreme hot or the extreme cold. They also have extreme events. If we understand, we are conscious about this difference, time is not always the same. We can use time in order to be active and not to be used.
Thank you, Nyomo, and thank you, Napea. And now I would like to go into a topic that, again, it comes from you, from your questions, and it's about the timelines. We know, and or maybe you don't know, if you are not, if you are just following us from, I mean, you are beginning to following Damanhur, the Damanhur with the timelines has a big story about it, a big storytelling about new timelines and the using of the time in order to, let's say, help the evolution of the humankind to go in a specific, let's say, direction that can help us to be more happy and in touch with freedom and so on. So when we talk about timelines in Damanhur, what do we mean and how Damanhur deal with the concept of timelines?
Uh, when we talk about timelines, it is actually it's very simple. We are talking about a vibration, like a music. Okay, to enter into a specific timeline, we have to vibrate with the same music of that timeline. So we are talking about the breathing, and also not only the breathing. We are also talking about vibration in terms of um, kind of consciousness we have, kind of action we do. Um, Maybe we can also describe this aspect talking about the different calendars we can find all over the world. For example, the Maya calendars. The Maya calendar is a very interesting calendar because it's not based on the stars and the movement of the stars, but was based on the different divine forces they were observing humanity in different phases of the history of humankind. So, according to the different divine forces, different events, different aspects. For example, using the Maya calendar, something very curious, we can find that in the Middle Age, in a certain moment, rotating the Maya calendar, we have Athena, the god of art, beauty, exactly in the period of the Renaissance. Or a divine force is connected to war, in moment where there was a lot of wars all over the world. So according to the different global vibration, we have a specific timeline. So a way to connect using synchronicity, cause and effect with a specific chain. Because of the global music, because of the global vibration. So for example, what is the vibration today? Today we have a vibration of fear, instability. We hear of many wars all over the world, the pandemic, all that aspect, they create a lot of fear. So this is a timeline. And also to fight or to change that timeline, we have to work. What is the difference between to have fear or to have consciousness about what's going on and what we can do to change the situation? In this way, we can create another timeline. It's a very active aspect related with the vibration we can spread all over. But to do that, we have to be in contact with the other. We have to create groups, communities, people that together they create another vibration. That vibration can create a timeline. So a group can create a timeline. That's the one of the base of Damanhur. We chosen to be a community. We chosen to be a group of people, a popolo, in order to create a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Together we can create a timeline. So we can vibrate in a different way, and so change our time, and also bring the other people in our timeline.
Thank you, Gnomo. Napea, you want to add something about that? Or we
Yeah,
can...
I mean, I agree 100% with Nyomo that it is the frequency and the vibration of the people who are creating the surroundings, the movements, the projection of what's happening on the planet. So when you can align your frequency, we are made of energy. So when we can align our energy to also focus and create a particular a reality, if you will, because we believe that thoughts create. So the positive thoughts are creating, but also energetically, when we are at a particular level, we move in a different frequency, and this is creating a different branches of time.
And this is a challenge because human being doesn't like to work together. We have to educate us to do it. It's a daily work. It's something. It's not so, it's not something very theoretical. It's something very practical. We have to work together. We have to live together. We have to understand the diversity of the other people, because in this way we can achieve a huge power. We can create a timeline, but we pay this power learning to live together with the other people, with solidarity, with share, and so on. It's not easy. We have to do it every day.
And we have a question about timelines. So let's see together, starting from your experiences, the Manurians. So how do you tap into another frequency to adapt your timeline? Like what you do in Yomo and what do you do in Napea to change your frequency and switch to another timeline?
In some ways, very simple, because we already touched that aspect. We can add another, nuance. We need the other people. We have to create alliance, because creating networks, creating alliance, we start to be more heavy into time, and we can curve time. We can change time. So we can do it alone. I can do meditation, I can use my breath, but it's a very, it's not enough. I need the other people. I need to create alliance with the other people, networks, communities, companies. What do you like? There are many different examples, groups.
Thank you, Nyomo. Napea, you want to add something about your experience?
Yeah, no, I agree absolutely that if you can do it together, there's a lot more power, a lot more movement, a lot more motion behind the ideas and the will. So one person on its own, it's like one candle. It's a beautiful light, but if you have many candles, the light is so much brighter and the heat is much brighter.
Mhm.
So it's like the same kind of idea, which being able to really have tap into and move together as a group, you're creating really like an aura that can bring you to higher frequencies. So it's not only also about practically doing, but it's also about our thinking. So having positive thoughts, thinking positively, this is something that I believe is really important for wanting to create that different timeline than we have been on in the past, and especially the timeline of war that we see today. But to really using my thoughts to create and sharing my ideas, sharing opinions, but thinking positively and also speaking positively. So using positive words, using our voice to share that positivity with the others, because many people, as Gnomo said, also are so connected today to fear, and this is very much damaging our energetic field and our timeline, because the timeline that we want is a timeline and a future of peace and harmony, not of fear. So the more that we can speak positively to each other, think positively to create energetically a world that we want to live in, this is for me a very very huge challenge, but also something that we can actually have control over and that we have power to do
Sure.
individually.
Yeah,
And
I
Falco
agree.
was pointing a lot of attention on thinking positive about others in order to become a group. And like Nyomo was saying, we are not that educated right now in this specific time to stay together, work together, and so on. And the judgment is one of the first, let's say, poison that kills the groups. Because, but it's something that we deal everybody. So it's happening, and then through the, let's say, the process of learning how to live with others, work with others, and being a group, of course, you face many different situations and stuff like this one.
I would like
So
to just to add something to about,
yeah.
because you said to learn, but I believe it's that we have to relearn, because at one time we were connected to each other. If you look even today at the small tribal communities that exist, the tribes do work together, and this is the ancient practice, the way that it was. It's not that we have to learn it; we have to relearn how to work
Mhm.
together. Because if you look at a tribe, how they go hunting, who's doing what, who's taking care of each duties, this is working together. They are really living with nature and working together to achieve their goal, which really is survival. So when you think about going to hunt or whatever it might be, but we need to relearn this because we have become so separate from the nature, separate from each other, that this is something that we really need to come back together to focus on.
Thank you, Napea. And I will go with the last question that are coming from YouTube. And of course, this topic we just touched. So the group and the community is part of the mission of Damanhur. So if you consider to visit us and coming, physically to Damanhur, in order to see if there is a project or something that you want to connect with, this is something that we are doing in our daily life. So someone is asking to us, the School of Remembering, how many people does it take to come together in order to change the timeline? So do we
5.
have 5? Go, Gnomo.
With 5 people, we can create a seed. And this first seed can create more, can grow. And in this way, we can be part of this transformation. Yeah.
Thank you, Gnomo. And we have another question. So, being part, for example, of Damanhur and connecting with people in this group, so in our popolo, on our people, as you were saying, the frequency will change a timeline, right?
Can physically create a timeline. Yeah, can create a real timeline. And the timeline we create must be sustained, must be supported. So we have to
It's
continue.
important.
We have to be constant over time. This is a little bit different. So it's not something we have to do once, but something we have to support during our life. It's a mission. It's a project.
Yeah, thank you to point out this, Gnomo, because I think it's important to share the fact that it's not an action that you do one day and then it's finished, or something that you do the Tuesday evening for an hour and then it's done. And as we said also in the past episode, um, Damanu thinks about this project as a 24 hours project. So a 24-hour
Yeah.
attitude, at least, mindset,
Yeah.
practice, and so on.
The good news is from the point of view of Damanhur, because we received a lot of guests from all over the world, and a lot of that people are people busy on spirituality. There are many groups all over the world. They are working every day to the reawakening, as Napea pointed out. It's a reawakening of memories. There are many groups over the world, despite of what we can see on the newspaper, on the television. Many groups, many people are working in silent every day all over the world for the same project.
Thank you, Gnomo. So, last question. I think we are almost at the end to our episode. As always, I would like that both of you point out one, let's say, um, one exercise, one attitude, something that you want to share with the people that are watching this episode about how to use time for your spiritual growth and so on. Something that you do, something that you would like to share now that you feel it can be useful for the people that are following this episode. It can be an exercise, it can be just a thought, a concept, whatever, something that you feel to share right now in order to close and end this episode. You can start, Gnomo, then you can go Napea, and then we
Okay.
say goodbye to
The
everyone.
exercise I'm going to suggest, it's very strange, but I think it's very strange, but um, it's also powerful. Maybe and you have to spend, I think, 20 days, okay? Not less than 20 days, so many days, every day to spend a few minutes taking one object, maybe the same object, for example, a small rock, something that is easy to find, a small rock, and to look at that object, thinking about that is not only an object, is also an amount of time. Every day, for a few minutes, to think about that this object, this small rock, is an amount of time, is not only an amount of space. Every day, in order to learn to our mind that we are made of time. We are not only made of matter.
Thank you, Gnomo. And Napea, yours inspiration, exercise, whatever you feel now.
Yeah.
She's the master of calendar.
Write it down now. I definitely think that I will touch back on the tree situation, because to really be able to connect, if you have any big trees where you are, even just to spend few minutes in the close aura, even 1 meter away, you can really feel more connected to your own self, who you truly are, this divine spark, and also to the universe, to nature, because we are one. So I would recommend to observe that feeling when you are really sitting with a big tree, and listen to what it can share with you.
Thank you, Napea. Thank you, Napea. Thank you, Gnomo. And thank to all of you to decide to participate with us today, but also to all those people that will see in the next days. So please follow us and leave a like and subscribe to this channel if you like this content, this live stream, in order to be updated for the next episodes, and also share it with your friends, because maybe you have some friends that would like this content, this kind of let's say conversation, and you can of course share and bring also them on board on these episodes. Thank you, Napea. Thank you, Gnomo, to be
Thank you
here with
too.
us.
Thank you for the questions also.
Thank you all for the question.
Yes.
Yes.
So we see you in the next episode. Convoy, everyone.
Boy.
Bye.
Convoy, convoy.